Welcome to EPG Pathshala. In this module, we are going to discuss about Introduction to Optimality Theory, Part 3. In Part 1 of the module, we discussed about the major components of OT, the architecture of OT and how OT works. In Module 2, we discussed about the types of constraints and we talked about the interaction of constraints in detail. In this module, we are going to talk about the modes of constraint interaction. We are also going to do a step-by-step analysis of micro variations using OT. We are also going to talk about some of the important principles of OT, such as the richness of base, the lexicon optimization, and the emergence of unmarked. Any two constraints A and B can interact with one another in any of the three following manners. If A is ranked higher than B, if B is ranked higher than A, and if A and B are unranked with respect to one another. If A is dominating B, then even a single violation of A is more important than any number of violations of B. If one output candidate violates A constraint, then another violates constraint B, then one violating B will be of course selected as the optimal candidate. As you can see in the picture, we have an input, there are two outputs, output 1, output 2, there is constraint A and constraint B. Now once output 1 violated constraint A, that becomes a fatal violation. So any amount of violation after that doesn't matter for us. So what we do is we shade that area. And output 2, although output 2 violates constraint B, but that is not a serious violation. Hence, output 2 is our optimal candidate. In the second image, we can see there are three constraints, constraint A, B and C. But what we see here is that there is dotted lines between all the three constraints. Now what dotted lines signify is that these constraints are unranked, that is, there is no hierarchical ranking among these constraints. Now there are two output candidates, output 1, output 2. Now output 1 violates constraint A, B as well as C, whereas output 2 violates only constraint B but twice. Since output 1 has the more number of violations, although they are not ranked to one another, the constraints, but yet since it has the more number of violations, therefore it's a fatal violation when it crosses two violations. Like in C, when it becomes 3 violation, there is a fatal mark. So therefore output 2 becomes the optimal candidate. Now we are going to talk about the factorial typology of constraint interaction. A factorial typology considers one particular constraint at a time and configures the different strategies that could be adopted to avoid violation of that particular constraint. For example, syllables with consonant clusters are universally marked. There are many languages that do not allow more than one consonant in the onset or coda position. For languages that do not allow consonant clusters, the number of syllables without clusters is going to be much higher than the number of syllables with clusters. Let us posit another constraint, that is star cluster. That means no cluster is allowed. This constraint will incur a violation each time an output candidate has a consonant cluster. For any output candidate with the structure as given, like CC, VC, there is one violation since there is one consonant cluster. So the number of consonant clusters in the word, the number of violation it incurs. Now, different languages have different repair strategies to deal with such problems. Now for a language A, they can insert a vowel among the two consonants. For language B, they can delete the first consonant. For language C, they can delete the second consonant. So these are different repair strategies that all the languages have. So now, in order to avoid violating cluster, a number of strategies could be used. For example, first insert vowel and resyllabify. So insert a vowel between the two consonants and resyllabify them. Like CCVC, now we insert a vowel and become CV.CVC. Or else insert the vowel in the beginning and becomes VC.CVC. or else delete one consonant, either the first consonant or the second consonant, doesn't matter. Now we are going to do a step-by-step analysis, as I already mentioned. So let us take an example from Hindi Urdu, which has for the word time, which has the popular pronunciations as waqt and waqt. Now waqt, now what the first step? The first step is generalize the properties for evaluation. Like both the words we are going to take and generalize their properties. In waqt there are two syllables, wa and kat, but waqt has one syllable. Waqt has a syllabic template of CV dot CVC, while waqt has CVCC. It has a consonant cluster. Now what we can see is waqt does not allow cluster. So there is a kind of vowel insertion going on there. Whereas in waqt there is cluster. So coda cluster is allowed in that particular language. Second, now we have to frame the constraints. Now what are the constraints? The first constraint that we are going to frame is no structure. Now this is a minimality principle that wants words to have a minimal phonological structure. Now if you have, it is like if you have one syllable, then you would violate it one time. If you have two syllables, you violate it twice. So it's kind of a minimality principle which wants words to have some kind of phonological structure. There cannot be a word without any phonological structure. The second one is lexical word is a prosodic word, must correspond to a prosodic word. So this constraint proposes that the minimal lexical word has to correspond to a prosodic unit. So the lexical word must be at least a syllable, which is the minimal prosodic unit. And the third one is no cluster. Now no cluster talks about that there cannot be any kind of sequence of CC structure or consonant-consonant structure. So it's basically a well-formedness principle that doesn't want any consonant cluster to surface in the output form. Now to devise the ranking hierarchy is our step 3. Now how to devise the ranking hierarchy? Now constraints are ordered in pairs. For example, we are going to pair these constraints in different pairs. Like for example, in the first one we are going to take no structure and lexical word is a prosodic word. So first we are going to put structure as the dominating constraint, no structure as the dominating constraint. In the second one we are going to put lexical word as a prosodic word as a dominating constraint. Now what do we find here? In the first one, where lexical word is a prosodic word is dominating no structure, if we have the input as a CV, in CV there is a structure, there is one syllable, so the structure is getting violated. Lexical word, prosodic word, it's a syllable, so it's not getting dominated. Whereas in the second one there is only a consonant C. Now C cannot be a minimal prosodic unit, that is, it's not even a syllable. So therefore C is violating, lexical word corresponds to prosodic word, and that becomes a fatal violation because it is higher ranked constraint. In the second one, with the same input and with the same potential candidates, if structure is dominating, we have the same violations, like CV violates structure as it has one syllable, and C has no structure, so no violations, and it is not even a syllable, it's not even a minimal prosodic unit, and therefore it violates that. Lexical word is corresponding to prosodic word, and since structure is the dominating constraint, A incurs a fatal violation. So for the same input, we have now two outputs. In the first case CV, and in the second case is C. Why? Because only with the difference in ranking of the constraints we have difference in outputs. Now let us take the other constraint, which was the no consonant cluster. So we are going to take no consonant cluster and structure, no structure. Now if no consonant cluster dominates no structure, then the cluster avoidance is more important than having a minimal structure. But like if no structure dominates no consonant cluster, then the minimal structure will surface even if it means having clusters. Like a CCV would also surface even if it means having clusters. Now if both of them are not ranked or unranked, then at least one more constraint needs to be taken into account. Now if both of them are unranked, we have to take another constraint to decide the optimal candidate. In step 4, we will draw the evaluation tables. Now as we have taken the same thing, Waqt, now you have Waqt, structure is getting violated twice because there are 2 syllables in table 1, Wa and Qat. So 2 violation, and in Waqt there is only the consonant cluster is violated, and that is the fatal violation as it is a higher ranked constraint as it has a consonant cluster. In language 2, if no structure is dominating, no consonant cluster, in table 2 as you can see, Waqt has 2 fatal violations and Waqt has 1 violation of structure, no structure, and 1 violation of no consonant cluster. But since Waqt has 2 violations of no structure, therefore it becomes a fatal violation and Waqt is chosen over Waqt in language 2. In dialect 3, if both of these constraints are unranked, both no consonant cluster and no structure are unranked, we do not get any output because both of them have two violations. So we do not know which one is a fatal violation until we have a third constraint. Now let us say the third constraint under consideration is a faithfulness constraint. Now faithfulness constraint as to ident-IO. So ident-IO violation incurred by each candidate output is dependent on what we select as the input. Now one more important thing that we came to know here is markedness constraint don't really want or what is there in the input. They don't care about what's there in the input. Anything can be input because they are imposing well-formedness on the output forms irrespective of what is there in the input form. Whereas when you take a faithfulness into the constraint into the picture, we need to posit something as the input. Now let us assume dialect L3 has the form Waqt as the input, while another dialect L3B has the form Waqt as the input. Now we are going to put Waqt and Waqt, and all the 3 constraints are unranked to one another. As you know, Waqt and Waqt, as you know, they have the same violation, 2 violations of both no consonant cluster and no structure. Now what comes into the picture is the faithfulness constraint. In table 4, we have taken Waqt as the input. Since Waqt is the input, Waqt incurs a violation of ident-IO because there is deletion going on. The A vowel gets deleted. Therefore, the optimal candidate becomes Waqt in table 4. In table 5, when we take Waqt as the input, then Waqt has a fatal violation of ident-IO because there is epenthesis going on. A vowel is epenthesized between the consonant cluster. Therefore, Waqt becomes the optimal candidate. Now, in some varieties of Dakhani Urdu spoken around Hyderabad, the same lexical word is spoken as Waqta. Now, there is another word, Waqta. To translate the difference into OT, we need a universal constraint that incurs a violation every time a consonant gets parsed as a coda. Whenever you have a coda, whenever you have a consonant in the coda position, no coda gets violated. So no coda is another markedness constraint, which is a well-formedness constraint which doesn't want syllables to have codas. Now, in both the example, when we take the input as Waqt, okay, and we have potential candidates as Waqt, we have Waqt, we have some kind of thing that I cannot pronounce, then we have Waqta, and then we have Waqta. So what happens is, in Waqt, ident-IO is not violated, whereas coda is getting violated. We have a coda. No coda is getting violated as we have a coda. In Waqt as well, there is deletion going on as well as no coda is getting violated. So both faithfulness and markedness gets violated. In C also there is metathesis happening, there is deletion happening. So ident-IO gets violated, and there is also a coda, so no coda gets violated. In D, Vakata, there is insertion going on, so ident-io gets violated, whereas coda is not violated. Vakta, in Vakta, there is metathesis going on, so ident-io is violated twice, because in A's position ta comes and in ta's position a comes. So the correspondents do not match, therefore ident-io has two violations. So as you can see from the above example, B, C, D, E all have fatal violations as they violate the faithfulness constraint ident-io. Therefore, Vakat becomes the optimal candidate. But what we have seen is in Dakani Urdu, the actual lexical word is Vakata. The output form is Vakata. Now to get Vakata, we have to position ident-io as a least ranked constraint, because every time ident-io becomes a higher ranked constraint, we could never get Vakata as the output form. So to get Vakata, we have to place no coda as a higher ranked constraint. Now if you place no coda as a higher ranked constraint, you can see in B, Vakat, in A, there is a coda, so it gets violated. B also, there is a coda, it gets violated, as well as there is deletion, so faithfulness constraint also gets violated. In C, there is deletion, so faithfulness constraint gets violated, and no coda also gets violated as it has a consonant in the coda position. In D, we have Vakata, no coda is satisfied here. There is no violation of no coda. So no coda does not get violated, only the faithfulness constraint gets violated as we have done an insertion here. And in E, Vakta, again no coda is getting violated, and ident-io it's getting violated twice. Basically in E we do not have a coda violation, it is only the ident-io that is getting violated, but twice. Therefore D is the optimal candidate as it incurs no serious violation of coda, no coda. So Dakani Urdu has the constraint ranking, no coda is a higher ranked constraint than the faithfulness constraint. Now we are going to see with what happens with respect to no structure and ident-io. Now if you have Vakat as the input and you have ident-io and no structure as two of the constraints, in one A we place ident-io as the higher ranked constraint, and in B we are placing no structure as the higher ranked constraint. So now what is happening is in A, Vakat incurs no violation of ident-io, whereas it has two syllables, so structure gets violated twice. In Vakt, one syllable, structure once. In C, D, E all have violations of ident-io as well as structure, whereas since A does not have a serious violation, A becomes the optimal candidate. In B, when no structure is placed as a higher ranked constraint than ident-io, we are getting two candidates as optimal candidates, Vakt, and the metathesis going on there. So basically we have two optimal candidates, and that can't be possible where you have two optimal candidates, so you need another third candidate there. So basically B is Vakt and C is, I can't even pronounce that word. So therefore what is happening here, considering these two potential candidates where we have both of them as optimal candidates, we need to introduce one more constraint. So what constraint are we going to introduce? As we know, Vakt is sounding more structurally well formed and C is not sounding more structurally well formed. So let us introduce another constraint which we call as SSP, which is the sonority sequencing principle. Sonority sequencing principle is a syllable well-formedness principle that states the relative sonority of the segment should rise from an onset to nucleus and then decline from the nucleus to coda. So basically what is happening in C is it is declining from the onset. It's declining and then rising. So there is the sonority is getting hampered there. So therefore by introducing it, we get the optimal candidate in B as Vakt and A remains the same as Waqt. So basically what we do is SSP and no structure, we are going to unrank them, that they are not ranked, they are on the same plane. So finally we got Waqt because C gets rejected on violating SSP. Now this is how you get to know the step-by-step analysis of accounting these differences between languages and how OT can account for it. Moving on, we have now going to discuss about the principles of OT. The first one is the richness of base. Now the richness of base says that the source of all systematic cross-linguistic variation is constrained re-ranking. As we have checked, like the input, whatever input you have, depending upon the constant ranking, is basically we get the output, which is the output that you have in a language is basically due to the re-ranking of the constraints. Now only by re-ranking the constraints we have different outputs. So the ranking of the constraint is basically language specific, and thereby you get the results as the optimal candidates belonging to that language. It doesn't matter even if you have the same segment, the same candidate as the input, it can have different output depending upon the re-ranking of the constraints. So in particular, the set of inputs to the grammars of all language is the same. The inputs of all language is the same. The variation in output is basically dependent on the re-ranking of constraints in that particular language. Continuing with the example of Waqt in table 6, 7, 8, we had assumed the input to be Waqt. Here we see that the optimal output for Western Hindi or Urdu remains unchanged, even if we consider the input to be Waqt and not Waqt. So depending on the constraint ranking, we derive the output. So the table 9 shows us the richness of the base, like we have kept the inputs as Waqt and Waqata, the different inputs, and depending upon that we get the outputs. The outputs remain the same even if you have different inputs. So basically the input is the same in all the languages, the output depends upon the ranking of the constraints, and the ranking of the constraint is language specific. So the input remains the same to all the languages, and richness of the base says that. Then we move forward to lexicon optimization. What does lexicon optimization say? In the architecture of OT, there is no restriction on the underlying representation. However, unless there is evidence to the contrary, the input is assumed to be identical to the surface representation. It says that you cannot posit anything as the input unless there is contrary evidence to it. So when you do not have any evidence to the contrary, the input that is closest to the output should be taken as the input. So now we have a quotation by Prince and Smolensky, who says that suppose there are different inputs I1, I2, In, when passed by a grammar G, lead to corresponding outputs O1, O2, O till On, all of which are realized in the same phonetic form. These inputs are phonetically equivalent with respect to G. Now, one of these outputs must be the most harmonic by virtue of incurring the least significant violation marks. Suppose this optimal one is labeled OK, then the learner should choose as the underlying form for the output, the input is IK. Now the emergence of the unmarked. Emergence of unmarked, a term coined by McCarthy and Prince, refers to the particular phonological context where a marked feature otherwise allowed in the language gets banned from a specialized context. Basically, this can be seen mostly in base and reduplicant morphology, where even though a structure, suppose the consonant cluster, is allowed in the base, it is not allowed in the reduplicant. The reduplicant tends to simplify these clusters. Now, the unmarked structure emerges in the reduplicant and not in the base. Even though such a marked structure is allowed in the languages, sometimes an unmarked structure emerges. Even though it is allowed in the languages, the marked structure, the unmarked emerges. Now it typically emerges why? When a faithfulness constraint has two iterations, one of which is dominated by a markedness constraint while the other is not. Thus, the unmarked structure emerges in specific constraint contexts where the first faithfulness constraint is unable to block. For example, in Bangla, the echo words are created by reduplicating the base word in such a manner that the reduplicant always begins with the voiceless coronal plosive t. It's like book and other such things, you call it as boy toy, and apple and other such things you would call it as apple tapple, and then like khata, similarly it goes on. Whereas this is one example, but in the second example what we are going to see is like in the first one striti, then this prantan, then is tripti tipti. Now what is happening here is now the consonant clusters are getting simplified in the reduplicant. Although these consonant clusters are allowed in the language, in the base form it's present, so it's allowed in the language, but in the reduplicant the unmarked structure, that is no consonant cluster, the unmarked structure emerges. So this is basically what is the emergence of the unmarked. In this module we checked about the modes of interaction among constraints in OT. Now all languages have both marked structures and unmarked structures. Sometimes a markedness constraint try to remove these kinds of marked structures, whereas the faithfulness constraint fight to retain these kinds of structures in the lexicon. So here is where the conflict arises. Now what wins depends upon the ranking of these constraints. Which constraint is high ranked and which is lower ranked decides the optimal candidate of that language. We discussed about factorial typology, how OT can account for different cross-linguistic variations in languages, and how with just a little bit of twist in the constraints ranking we can get a different sort of output. I hope this module was of great help to you. Thank you.